Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Grab a cold one, crank up the volume, and join the show. Welcome to NBNR Live. And here we go.
It's no block, no rock.
Go big red indeed. No block, no rock. Episode 225 coming at you from the NBNR studio in Omaha, Nebraska. We are from Omaha, Nebraska. So our main sponsor, Nebraska Brewing Company. I'm currently drinking their coffee stout. I am continuing my coffee binge from this morning, and I'm carrying it over into the evening because I'm kind of weird like that. I love coffee, and it tastes good.
Kind of weird is an understatement.
I'm a little goofy. I love me some coffee, so I get the coffee stout. Connor, what you got?
So it's weird. For I don't know how many years you would catch me every episode drinking the Nebraska Pilsner, but today I'm drinking EOS Hef, and I want to plug our sponsor that we've had for several weeks now, Draft Top. If you guys have not seen the episodes recently, Draft Top is able to turn your regular can into a glass, and it's just this simple. Grip the top here
And
you
twist.
twist it around, and you can feel it when it comes loose. And I'm getting better at it, actually.
See, now Mitch Sherman's kind of looking at you like, what is this?
See,
Ooh.
I'm thinking that you're going to just like bloody your lip, but it looks like there's
No.
a smooth edge.
Smooth edge.
It is
Smooth
a
edge,
smooth
baby.
And it
There
opens
it
up
is.
just like that. I can't show the camera, but Mitch can see it. But it is a smooth edge right there.
That is a genius invention right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is the new sponsor of No Block, No Rock.
I think Mitch is selling it better than us.
He's like, this is awesome.
He's
Why didn't I
like-
get one?
he's like,
We have one for you if you want to use it.
Yeah. So we do.
Take one home.
Well, shoot.
We do. Like I said, it's Draft Top. We use them every week now in the episode because it's just phenomenal. It's an easy way for us to drink beers faster, which is dangerous for the content. But we do. You can find it on our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if it's on TikTok, but we do have an affiliate link. So if you want to get one of these yourself, we do have a link where if you buy it through that link, you can support the podcast while getting yourself something cool to drink beers faster, just like us.
Exactly.
Mike Delaware, what are you drinking?
I am drinking the EOS Hefeweizen. Kyle is out today doing his documentary for Oklahoma State softball. So I'm sitting in his seat and I'm drinking his favorite beer. So
All right, now twist.
Spin. Hold on.
See, Mike's better at it than I am.
There it is. I heard boom.
See, he caught his lid in there. I
Zero.
always release too soon,
See,
but that's a user error, not a tool error.
no. It's easy and it
Zero spillage.
no spillage. This time I didn't spill on my computer.
The laptop is safe.
Yeah.
I'm not used to having like objects in front of me. Usually I sit over there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like
I noticed today that I'm sitting a little bit lower. If you guys are watching and you see me a little bit lower than I normally am, I'm in Mike's seat and his ass has just compounded the padding here.
all right.
You got a nice ass, Mike.
Thanks.
Don't be shy.
I
of it.
appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It is pretty nice. Our special guest tonight, Mitch Sherman of The Athletic, joining us in the studio. Thank you for coming by.
Yeah, you guys got some great space here. Last time I was with you, we were in a bar.
Yeah.
I mean, we were at the Nebraska Brewing Company, but
Uh-huh.
I am drinking this Ale Storm. Pretty good. Making me wish that I had been to Warner Park this year already. I'll have to get out there soon.
Yeah, I haven't either. We usually do like the opening day tailgate with the brewery, but we had some storms come in and we're like, well, that's probably not a good idea. So
It's the right time to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We-
yeah, stir up the storm, right?
They didn't have to
Literally?
chase their own storms that day. It found them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, look, maybe you can go when Jack Caglione makes his debut.
I'll be there for
I mean,
that.
if you're gonna talk about that, yeah,
Sure.
I'm very excited to see Jack Caglione in Omaha in the Kansas City Royals organization this year. So as a Royals fan, nothing would excite me more than to have him up in Omaha by like Memorial Day and then just move him on to Kansas City in July.
Three Royals fans and a Cardinals fan doing a podcast.
That's
yeah.
right.
So do we just jump Jared, or do we just jump him in the corner here?
Hey, my Cards are doing okay. All right, keep their name out your mouth. You don't know nothing.
Yeah, all 50 fans that are showing up to those games. That's pretty great, huh?
I was gonna say all you guys need in here in this cool space is a TV, but there is a TV.
There it is.
And the Royals are playing the Yankees right now as we record this.
Mike's turning on the
Mike's
TV
about
right
to turn
now.
it on.
I don't know if we have that channel. Is it on Bally? Not Bally. Now it's
FanDuel.
FanDuel. Yeah. So I don't think they have that on the old YouTube TV, but
They do not.
Blackout City, man.
yeah. So
It's ridiculous.
it's a little unfortunate. I have it at my house, but well, actually,
It's wild that the MLB always wants to talk about how, viewership is declining as they make it increasingly harder for local fans to watch their teams.
The game, I believe the game tonight's on the MLB network, actually. The
is it?
in the Bronx, which is also not on YouTube TV.
Oh,
That's right. Also not available.
Well, never mind then.
We just need to buy a second laptop where we could allegedly pirate games.
Well,
Allegedly. And I'm not talking about Pittsburgh.
I could tell you a little bit about this thing called Apollo Group TV, but I'm not going to.
No,
Jeez, man.
hey, the more you talk about it, the faster it gets taken down. So
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank God we are not a Royals pod. Am I right,
Yeah,
fellas?
I am right.
Am I right?
Hey,
Yeah.
Nebraska Brewing Company.
World class.
in every glass.
All right, Mike, how much time are we going to dedicate to the James Williams?
Hit it and get it.
I mean,
hit it.
yeah,
and
let's
get
do we call it a saga?
I just,
Mitch
I just
Sherman?
think it's interesting, and Mitch already talked about this today. So
Oh, man.
I mean, he's got good points. So we've got obviously have to talk about it with him.
Well, Mitch, what was your point? Did you have like a overarching conclusion or
I
point?
generally try to do that. Try to have a point when I talk. So
You do?
Good start.
News to me.
So yeah, my point was I don't necessarily have a problem with what he said. I might if I was out there as a Nebraska fan, but I'm a journalist, so it's the more that he says like that, the better it is for me. People are going to read articles. I haven't written an article about James Williams. It hasn't risen to that level yet, but I did talk about it for 10 minutes today on my podcast with Connor Happer, the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Check it out. And okay, so the thing that he said, I think that bothered me the most, if I put myself in the chair of a Nebraska fan, is that people just care, and this is paraphrasing what and so he did 2 interviews, one several weeks ago when he first got to Florida State, and then another one with War Chant, which is part of their On3, the On3 network, and this was arranged through the collective at Florida State, which always makes it a little interesting because you wonder, like, okay, who's actually speaking here, and what are the arrangements? But hey, James speaks for himself, and he was fun to talk to at Nebraska. I think we got to talk to him twice in his couple of years in the program, and then Nebraska kind of put an end to that after he made some statements. They were after the Rutgers game. He had 2 sacks in the Rutgers game, and he came out after the game and talked about Terrence Knighton and how Knighton had been this father figure. And I don't believe it wasn't said at the main podium in the press room at the Hawks Center. It was kind of off in a side area. And to take you behind the scenes, like the interviews that are not at the main, Matt Rule goes to the main podium, the quarterback, the big stars of the game are going to go to the main podium. I believe James was off in the practice field area where they do kind of breakout interviews. And he was talking about Knighton and this and that. And so a lot of people weren't there for it. And we all got wind of what he said and went to the school, the media people at the school, like media relations, Keith Mann and his staff. And I remember asking him, they had a bye week after Rutgers. And I was like, hey, can we get some more James Williams? Would love to follow up on what he had to say. And the answer was like, no, we're not going to do that right now. So I don't know what that was about. I think they just kind of were like, this story's maybe getting it. They liked Matt Rule and his regime, great with the media, great access. Rule's is as good of a coach as I've been around as far as dealing with him from a media point of view. They do like to kind of control the narratives that are coming out of the program. And at that moment, they weren't real interested in a narrative about James Williams and his backstory, whatever that is, and we never found out why Knighton had to fill this role of a father figure. So it never came out. He transferred, and then We've seen him pop up a couple times in Florida State media, and both times it's been no disrespect to Nebraska, but
you have to say, but
yeah,
you've already crossed that line.
Yeah, but the one thing he said that I thought would really rub me the most wrong if I was in the chair of a Nebraska fan is we take our football real serious down here in the South. And that's part of what's different about this experience versus my old experience at Nebraska. There are few ways to get under the Nebraska fans' collective skin more than to suggest that someone else takes their football more seriously than Nebraska. Like they can win more games, they can win more championships, they can have more Heisman trophies and all of that. Of course, Nebraska would like to be on that level, and once was on that level, is not on that level now. But what Nebraska has going, what its fans have going for them, is that they take their football very seriously. 12 months out of the year, that's just how it is. So, sorry, Florida State, you don't get to have that. You don't get that. You don't care about football more than people do at Nebraska. It's just, yeah. So, James said that, and it caught the ire of Nebraska fans. I'm okay. That's fine. He can do that. I would say just be prepared for the response because you're probably not going to like it that much. And to his credit, I don't think he's really lashed out too much. He maybe posted a meme or whatever, but he hasn't like come back guns a-blazing like at the Nebraska fans, which is a good idea. Like, don't start that war.
There's just a few things. It's like we were made aware of this whole backstory with him coming here and how much it was like almost like we were taking a chance on him. Yeah, bringing him in, and
he does owe something to Nebraska. He should,
right? And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, dude, I know they're kind of setting a trap for you, and you're going to say something, but just Matt Rule, thank you. You know, as far as I know, he's never said anything like that. But then the other thing too is like I fully recognize a lot of us are overreacting to it, and it's Twitter, and that's part of getting engagement, right? It's like we have a cult here. Okay, and if you're not a part of our cult, then just shut the fuck up about us. Like, you're not a part of our cult, so just don't talk about us. How about that? Like, you're gone. You should be thankful that we brought you in, okay, and you are part of the family, but now you're not. So just keep our name out your mouth.
So I have two parts to this, and one of them, the first part, is going to be Conspiracy Connor, is the fact that transfers down to FSU, who I don't know if you guys know. Do you know what their record was last year? If I remember correctly, it was 2-10.
Indeed, wasn't good.
You want to know how to draw attention to a 2-10 program? Rile up the Huskers, because that is going to get you a lot of views.
Sure,
get you. And you guys know social media views, clicks, likes, whatever is going to drive attention to your program. That might be part of it. That's my conspiracy. But the other part where people are talking about is, you shouldn't talk about, like, if you transfer, referring to your old program is kind of, you leave that alone. You talk about what's going on currently with what you're doing. You guys know who Rocco Spindler is?
Indeed.
I do. And he talked about when he came to Nebraska, talked about how, this O-line looks a lot more physical, a lot more talented than what I saw last year at Notre Dame. Notre Dame was runner-up national champion. So while I don't appreciate his comments, it is I think the one thing people need to take away from is it is totally his right to say it, but there's freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence. Like, you are going to get these angry fans coming at you and saying, shut the hell up. But it is his right to say it. I honestly I didn't even think of it as much of a controversy until I saw Twitter just lighting up over it. I wasn't that concerned.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people didn't see the video of him. I think the video is more like forgiving of what he said, and if you just read it, it'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But Mike, do you have a
Come on, one of those things. Like,
what's your hot take? Let's go.
There's no hot take. It's just your tweet was perfect, Jared. It's like he should be very, very appreciative of Nebraska, Matt Rule, because they took a chance on a kid and it ended up working out okay for him.
Nobody would have known who he was, right? He was a JUCO from out of nowhere.
At the end of the day, we've had transfers, I don't know if you guys remember the Casey Thompson thing. Remember that he's like, he said some things about Texas. Yeah. And then he goes back and he's like, but I actually don't ever want to talk about that anymore. I just want to talk about where I'm at now. I think that's just the approach, especially in this era with just transfer portal and everything else. and the player movement that is probably going to happen in the next day or so. Like, just take what they say with a grain of salt. They're going to be appreciative of where they're at now because they're getting compensated to be there. So he's going to say nice things about Florida State because he's getting paid to be there. So sure, what do you expect him to say? He's going to say, oh, I think we had better players at Nebraska, but it's all right.
Tallahassee's a shithole.
Right? Like, come on now.
No, I just don't see the reason to talk down on previous programs. I just don't see it. You're more like everybody should talk up the program that they're at. That's the reason you're there, right? Because you thought this was, the greener pasture. You should be happy to be there. But there's no reason to denigrate the previous.
Yeah, and what I'm about to say is piggybacking off you, Mitch. We had like a Florida State media guy respond to us, like retweet us, and all he did was put like, for the past 20 years, FSU has been much better than Nebraska. So he like had this list of like all these numbers, whatever. And then at the very end, the very, very end, it says
he was wrong.
Yes, he was wrong about a few things on that list. But at the very end, he says, great fan base. It's like, yeah. I mean, again, we know we sucked for the past 20 years, dude. That's not the point. You say great fan base, though. It's like, yeah. FSU, I don't think we could say the same about you guys. You're not at our level, right?
We're sickos.
We are sickos. All right. Anything else about James Williams?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know. I feel like we dedicated too much time to it.
No, I think you guys said it. I think we said it all. It's not one of those subjects that just like continues on and produces content where you can go on and on about it. Like this is going to mean absolutely nothing.
Nope.
Florida State's not on the schedule the last time I checked for Nebraska in the fall. I don't think they're going to play in a bowl game. I don't think they're going to meet in the college football playoff.
Pinstripe Bowl.
Prove me wrong, but yeah, it means it's a great April 14th story. April 10th to 14th. On April 15th, it's like, all right, now we're going to talk about things that matter for the 2025 season, and this is not one of them.
Exactly.
To be fair, it doesn't mean much like tomorrow, but I guarantee you bookmarks have been made.
Oh,
and in December, people are going to come back and go, "Oh, James, you only had 2 sacks, or you got 2 snaps a game. What's up, bro?"
Well, the crazy Nebraska fan will be studying the Florida State projected depth chart in July and say, "Why is James Williams number 2 at defensive end? I thought this guy, he didn't say that he was going to go and win a national championship or be on Tony White's top group or whatever." I mean, the whole Tony White, Terrence Knighton thing, like that, I think has more legs and following like how those guys do at FSU, because they're presumably going to be there a while and going to be in college football a while. Like James Williams, like he's going to come and go at Florida State, and I hope the best for him. I hope that he turns this experience in Tallahassee into an NFL career. Like that would be so cool to see him become an NFL draft pick, considering where he was at, that he came to Nebraska from a post-grad tryout camp that 2 years later, now this year in 2025, doesn't even exist. Like they can't have that camp anymore because of roster limits. So he got in on the very end. Like if he's 2 years younger, he probably never gets a sniff of FBS football. So it's a great story. I hope he goes to the NFL, but the Knighton and White thing is, for me, way more interesting to watch to see how that plays out in Tallahassee.
Well, I don't feel like this is a hot take in this room, but I also hope Tony White and Terrence Knighton succeed at FSU.
I don't.
I do.
What?
It was sad.
Nah.
If you're a Nebraska fan,
I think they're good coaches.
I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you are very intrigued with Tony White and what might his future be. Where might Tony White end up someday as a head coach?
Yeah, Nebraska. Yeah. Just watch all the Nebraska fans clamoring for Tony White if Matt Rule doesn't work out.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying.
I just said I hope Tony White and Terrence Knighton succeed, and you said no. And now you're saying,
no,
I hope he's a head coach at Nebraska.
No, I did not say I hope he's a head coach at Nebraska.
You're saying
I'm saying just watch. You never know where he could end up. He's got ties to come,
I don't know.
He's the second coming of Bo Pelini without the
what?
The
what?
Okay, I'm trying to find the right word for this. He doesn't have the volatile temperament of Bo Pelini.
Hey, I kind of like the volatility of Bo.
Yeah, okay, it worked out really well.
Well, that's because
so Bo was at Nebraska for 1 year as a defensive coordinator. Didn't have a background in Lincoln. Went out in a blaze of glory. Tony White was at Nebraska for 2 years. Went out in a classy way to another major program, twice as long as Bo, with no background at Nebraska. And a few years later, when the position opened up, all Nebraska fans wanted was for Bo Pelini to come back, which he, of course, did. You can see history repeat itself. Matt Rule's not going to coach until he's 60. Nope. Let's just put it that way. He just turned 50. He's not going to coach. If he coaches past 55, I'd be surprised.
Really?
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I guess I guess that's a whole new thing. 55, huh? What is he now?
Just turned 50.
So I guess with NIL and portal, I guess that would kind of make more gray hairs on your head. But
are you saying he won't coach at Nebraska until 55, or coach until he's 55?
I think that's probably about the age that he expects to. I don't know what he'll do after that. If he's just gonna move to the Jersey Shore and and sail off. He's the money that coaches make now. It absolutely, and the stress that they're under because of everything that's around them. I think it absolutely affects their ideas of longevity. He's not. His college coach was Joe Paterno. You have, one of his, I think you can say mentor now at Nebraska, Tom Osborne. Like those kind of careers just are not going to happen anymore.
Yeah. So and this is going to be kind of a tough question that I'm going to throw at you. As far as longevity goes, I always considered like a stepping stone coach to be 3 to 4 years, and a long-term coach to be 5 to 10. Mm-hmm. Has that kind of changed in your mind? What is a long-term coach in your mind in the current era?
I think that's about right.
Still the same?
I think, I don't know if that was the case 20 years ago.
Well, it was like 20 years.
20 years ago, I mean, you're looking at like a 10 to 15-year coach. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think right now, I could see Matt Rule coaching until he's 60. Provided, again, we've always talked about incremental success. And in fact, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we really dove into the third-year success of Matt Rule and why Husker fans shouldn't expect that same kind of pop that they saw at Temple or Baylor, and why they should see more incremental success going from counting the bowl game 7 wins to counting a bowl game 9 wins this year as very good success. I think as long as you have that kind of incremental success, you could see a 10-year career out of Matt Rule. What do you see in that argument that might be wrong?
Well, I agree with you on the incremental success. That's more the likely path than to go from 3 wins to 8 wins to 11 wins, like, he experienced at Temple and Baylor, or, some close version of that. College football is just different today. And a lot of times you're remaking your roster every year, and it's more of a crapshoot. The days of having Hassan Reddick on your, future $15 million player in the NFL who you can develop over 3, 4, 5 years at Temple, it just doesn't happen. Like, it would not happen in today's college football. He would be at Texas or Florida State or somewhere like that. And that's sad, because then the kind of rise that Matt Rule was able to create at Temple, it doesn't happen in the same way. Like, he's not able to go up to 10 wins or 11 wins. He probably doesn't beat Penn State without those kind of players that he developed. And the same thing happened for him at Baylor. The transfer portal came into effect in 2018. Rules last year at Baylor was 2019. So he really didn't deal with it much at all. Nothing like what it is in its current stage. And it's not like, it wasn't just the transfer portal. It was the transfer portal with the combination of paying players that got us to where we are today, because there's not just the ability to go move, there's the incentive to go move and make more money. So yeah, it changes everything. And they're in the Big Ten, an 18-team Big Ten, which is ultra competitive, different from what he experienced in the AAC, the MAC or the AAC. Yeah, Temple was transitioning when he was there, the AAC, correct? At the end of his time there, or maybe all of his time as the head coach, and in the Big 12. It's just different. It's more competitive. It's harder to win. It's more physical. You have to be entrenched for the most part. Not, you're going to see a anomaly like we saw at Indiana last year, but that's not the norm in any way. So it's harder. It's hard to make a big jump. Like Rule going from 5-7 to 6-6, and now 7-6 in year 2, but 6-6 in the regular season. That's okay. Like, and I think there was more progress than was indicative by the record. Like they were a better program in year 2 than year 1, and they need to be a better program in year 3 than they were in year 2. As far as like why I say that, I think his career at Nebraska is more like in the 7-year range than the 12-year range. It's just a feeling I get. It's just I hear him and read between the lines of things that he says, and hear him make comments and talk about his family and talk about his vision for the future. And he's not told me or obviously said at a press conference that he doesn't expect to coach past 55, but you just get a feeling. And
Sure.
and having been around the business for a long time, you get a sense, is this guy going to be in it is he going to be coaching when he's 65? No, it would shock me with Rule.
I totally agree with that. And I remember, it would have been his first year at Nebraska. He talked about, when Evan Cooper's the head coach in Nebraska.
Right.
I remember that particular quote. And it's like
that's changed.
It's changed a little bit, but I think the path is still the same. I obviously Evan Cooper's not at Nebraska anymore, but I think there's other coaches. He's always been a coach groomer. He's a guy that really enjoys developing players, but also coaches. So I think maybe there is a guy on staff, or who was maybe previously on staff, that maybe would take this job after Matt Rule is calling it quits.
Garrett McGuire.
People will laugh at that was the name I was going to say. I don't think Garrett McGuire is ever going to be the coach in Nebraska, but people will laugh at me still and say you were wrong about Garrett McGuire because, and maybe I was wrong about Garrett McGuire as a receivers coach and like the immediate impact that he was going to have at Nebraska when he came on as a 23 or 24-year-old. I'll take that L, but I still think he has a bright future. And I still think he's going to be an offensive coordinator by the time he's 30 years old, and probably going to be a head coach someday. And probably not here, but he has an it factor, and maybe the shoes were too big. Maybe the fit wasn't right at Nebraska. Maybe they gave him more than he was ready to handle, but he's going to go work with his dad now, who is a Matt Rule protege, so to speak. I mean, Joey McGuire certainly built his own reputation without Matt Rule as a high school coach in Texas, but in college he got his start from Rule. And I think Garrett has a lot of those same qualities, just with a different path than what Joey has taken. The guy on staff who I'd look at now and say, all right, I see future head coach in him, is Rob Dvorak.
Oh yeah.
The linebackers coach, who's just smooth as silk with and I don't want to go down the road and maybe make the same mistake I did with McGuire in projecting greatness for him and say that about Da'Keel Shorts, but I'm also very impressed with Da'Keel Shorts and what I've learned about him in like 3 months. But Dvorak, we've been around for 2+ years now, and he's going to be a DC by the time he's 35, and I see him being a future head coach.
He's one of the few that have stuck. I mean, we've seen a lot of changes with Rule staff, and something that isn't really asked is we talk about Holgorsen and we appreciate his candor, how, the latter part of the season, it looked like the offense was much better than it was before. But a question that people don't ask is like, what are his goals? Does he plan on sticking around for a couple of years? Like, is he ever going to get that head coaching itch? And look, that's easy to say no to.
I don't think so.
What with all the stress that you go under as a head coach, and as an OC, there's a little less, responsibilities on your plate. How long does Holgorsen stick around?
I'm not sure that Holgorsen knows what he wants to do next week or when spring practice ends and if he gets a week off in July. I don't think the story about him from the Pinstripe Bowl, when ESPN put the graphic up on the screen about the places that he had traveled, that he went when he was out of coaching, or after he was fired at Houston and before he came to Nebraska, even though he was still kind of in coaching at TCU, was amazing. And I know he has talked a little bit more about that, but I would like to hear more just about his life. I mean, the story that he told, or who told the story? I think it was Da'Keel Shorts, who told the story about how he got into coaching and how Holgorsen took him on a trip to Key West with Mike Leach, and they just hung out and drank beer.
Could you imagine?
Yeah,
That'd be quite the crew.
Want to hear more about that. And I legitimately don't think that Dana has those kind of, he just doesn't operate with those kind of visions. I don't think he puts a plan out there and says, a year from now, I want to be, back in the running for job X, Y, or Z. I just don't think that's how he rolls. Like, he is cool with just being in Lincoln right now hanging out, walking to work every day, drawing up plays. Like he legitimately has fun at these media sessions, which are not fun, I think, for the majority of coaches. Like they can't wait to get out of there. I think Dana would stand and talk to us for an hour if if they allowed him.
I think he'd get in trouble.
Yeah, he would. Like the longer he gets in there, like if he could, yeah.
Keith Mann would be like, no, stop.
So I would love to sit down and like share a 6-pack with Dana Holgerson.
Absolutely.
Some Red Bull.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, how can I know if he has aspirations to be a head coach again if he doesn't even know? I don't think that he knows.
I think what you just said makes me want Dana Holgerson as a coach even more.
As the head coach?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's kind of a shit show. At least the history.
I've seen 15 years of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't want more of it.
And I don't mean that like he would, the football is going to be fine, but like he's really good in this role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where he's just got to worry about the offense. I think the thing where he gets in trouble historically is when you got to be the CEO, like, which is what Rule is good at. And that's what I mean by like it could, and I don't know that a program like Nebraska or a Power 4 program where it's Rule has the GM, but let's be serious. Like he's the GM, like the buck stops with him. I mean, he has an athletic director, he has a boss who makes decisions, but the football decisions, they come to Matt Rule's desk. And I think Dana Holgerson's better making the offensive decisions. Like, here's what we're going to run on third down. Like that's where he thrives.
So we have already talked about Gary McGuire, Tony White, Terrence Knighton, Dana Holgerson. One thing I always like to talk about is what I refer to as the Nick Saban School for Misfit Coaches. Is Matt Rule starting to kind of assemble, a program for misfit coaches that are being developed? I think Matt Rule is very good, not only at developing players, but he is coaching development. I think his coaching development has worked really well. Are we starting to see that in Nebraska? Is he bringing in guys? I mean, Holgerson obviously.
Holgerson's the only one who fits that category because he was a fired head coach. I mean, that's kind of that was the MO with Saban and Sarkisian and Lane. All of those he had Bill O'Brien. There were several others.
But so looking at head coaching experience, I look at McGuire. Obviously follows Rule from the Panthers. So these guys all have experience in coaching, and they're kind of coming to Nebraska and getting developed with Rule or under Rule. Do you see something like that happening, or am I just seeing something that maybe I'm reading too much into?
Well, I think Rule has that ability. I think if Rule wanted to go that route, and what made Alabama, a couple things. There were a couple reasons why Alabama was able to like corner that market. One, you had the guy at the top of the program in Saban who was perfect for that because everyone respects him and no one's going to step out of line. Like if he brought in Sark and Sark had a history of whatever kind of issues, like if you're working for Nick Saban, you're going to stay in line. Like there's too much respect. He demands respect. And then two, Alabama had the resources to be able to accommodate those people. And now there are more resources available at every program because you have unlimited coaching spots. Like you don't even have to be an analyst. You can just be the 8th offensive coach or whatever, or the 9th defensive coach. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, probably as Rules Rules program would be as good of a place for that kind of thing to happen as anywhere, because of, I think, the kind of leader that he is. And like you said, like a coach of coaches, and some of the people that he brings in, we're seeing now here in his third year, who are also coaches of coaches, like Phil Snow. But I don't know that you're going to see a run of coaches who have been let go at other spots and they kind of get their careers back on track at Nebraska. They're a ways away from becoming a like that kind of Alabama was also able to do that because they were pumping out national championships.
Machine.
Yeah. Yeah. So if Matt Rule
5
gets,
to 10 draft
when
picks
Matt,
a year,
when Matt
yeah.
Rule gets Nebraska to that place, and it's gonna be tough if he retires at 55, where they're pumping out national championships, then sure, bring on all the fired coaches in the country and let them fix their careers at Nebraska. But no, I think it's a little bit of a different model. Like I think he's a guy who is what is part of his coaching legacy will be development of young coaches. And you've seen a number of young guys who've come in and Shorts is the latest. Addison Williams is relatively young. He's been a coordinator, but still relatively young. Phil Simpson is a guy who has primarily high school experience. Terry Braden, young guy, been in the NFL, but college is this is a new level to him for on the college scene. So yeah, I think that like there's a niche there that of a category that Rule fits into as a head coach. But it's a little different than what Saban was. There's only one Saban.
So,
no, yeah, I wasn't trying to compare the two, to be clear.
So like I'm hearing all this conversation about, Rule being the mentor to people and being the coach's guy. And I'm sitting here as a Nebraska fan that, we just made a bowl for the first time in 8 freaking years. And I think Matt Rule would even agree to this, is like, I don't want Matt Rule to be known as the coaching guru guy. I want you to hire the best guys as possible. I don't want you to have to be coaching the lower guys so you're known as the guru guy. Hire the best guys that you can and win as many games as possible. I don't want you to be known as the Nick Saban, the Island Misfit Toys guy.
I don't think you have to.
And I honestly think that that is part of the bargain that you take, is like, if you're going to hire lesser coaches, then yeah, you're going to win 7, 8 and just kind of be meh. But if you're going to hire the best of the best, like now we're talking about outside chance of a playoff, so just hire the best of the best.
Well,
am I wrong for thinking this?
No, I think if you look at the approach that Ohio State just took, they went and hired a failed head coach in Chip Kelly. And I think you get to a point with some of these coaches, some of the old school head coaches will say, and I think Dana fits in that category, they don't want to deal with the bullshit. They don't want to deal with all the
bullshit. I don't need a babysit.
Portal, all that stuff. That's why I was wondering why the heck Bill Belichick wants to even get involved in this crap. Because it's just there's so much crap they have to deal with now just to be a head coach. It's not just coaching football anymore. So I think guys like Dana, guys like Chip Kelly, those guys enjoy just coaching the X's and O's, and they don't want to deal with all the other crap. And that's probably why Matt Rule potentially would be gone in 5 years, at 55, because eventually it's going to wear on somebody. He doesn't want to have to deal with the constant changing of the roster, the coach movement, everything else that's moving.
I think he just wants to enjoy his life.
That too. Yeah. He's made plenty of money.
Yeah, he's going to make enough money. I think he looks at his parents and sees some of the things that they've done in whatever, if you want to call it retirement or just helping people. And like, I think he genuinely has a big heart and wants to help people. And that's part of the reason he's in coaching. I mean, yeah, let's not like overlook the money. It's a lucrative job, but like, what got him into it initially? Like he wanted to it sounds like this is idealistic and you're just like spouting the line that he'd want you to say. No, I think he like legitimately wants to be there and help young people, be a mentor for them. And there are other ways that he can do that without dealing with all of the stuff that you talk about. He's not going to make as much money, but that's okay if you've got $90 million in the bank.
Yeah.
So
it'll do.
Yeah. Holgerson, he didn't even want to drive a car, like, let alone deal with everything that comes with being a head coach. He just wants to live somewhere where he can walk to work. Like I
respect it.
That's walkable cities.
Yeah, that's the new, like, it's almost like that's the new norm with these coaches, is like, just get rid of everything. Like, Chip Kelly, you say failed head coach, kind of. He didn't get fired.
Right.
Like he just stepped down.
Yeah.
He was on his way to getting fired.
Yeah.
But he just stepped down as the head coach at UCLA to come be a coordinator at Ohio State, which, all right, wouldn't have seen that 5-10 years ago, but you do now.
Yeah.
And he's got a ring.
What I'm interested to see is, I predict, and 10 years from now, Twitter is going to roast me for this. In 10 years, you're going to see a new wave of coaches. And it's going to be similar to what we see in NCAA basketball, where we're going to be looking at essentially one and done programs. We're already starting to see, we talked about Nico before the show started. these players that are here to win or leave. And you're going to get into these systems where we're going to put you in the best position right now. And if we don't meet your goals, you're gone. And the development, those 3-4 year programs where you had players like, an Ndamukong Suh, Tommy Frazier, whatever you want to call it. That's over, unfortunately.
So what's the parallel of the college basketball? Sorry, I'm intrigued by this.
So my parallel, I'm a Duke basketball fan.
Mhm.
You can hate me all you want.
I don't care.
But I
I prefer backdoor.
did I say normally?
No, I just thought it was stupid.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Whenever you talk about
No,
Duke,
the parallel is I relearn a roster every year. We're already starting to see that in college football.
Yeah.
So for coaches in college football, you're going to start seeing a lot of turnover in those rosters. I think even it's going to accelerate as this progresses with the portal with NIL, unless there are some regulations, which again we talked.
Unless there are revenue sharing contracts, 2-year contracts.
I think the opposite. I think they're going to wrangle this stuff in. I think the next 3 to 5 years, and I think you're going to see the opposite. You're going to see guys signing.
Who's going to do it?
I don't know.
Nico tried.
I don't know.
Nico tried.
Not necessarily. No.
That's the question. I mean, in principle, I agree with you. They should. It makes sense that they would. And then I say, well, who's going to do it? Not the NCAA, because anytime they try to do anything, they get sued and lose.
Yep.
So who's going to do it? Not the United States government. It's not going to be Congress. Is there going to be is it the SEC and the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Leading the way? Maybe.
Well, the players union, I think of another thing that would drive it too would be like the TV deal, like the TV money is the money. I mean, that's what drives these leagues. So I think eventually they could put their stamp on it too and be like, no, we want Dylan Morello playing at Nebraska. That's good for our brand. So I think eventually there's going to be a players union.
Brought to you by Fox.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
dystopian.
I think that eventually there will
I think he already is if you listen to Gus Johnson talk about him.
Oh, he loves him. I think there eventually will be like a players union type thing. It'll be very similar to what the model in the NFL, where they're going to have, somebody to represent the players and somebody to represent, just like the coaches have now. I think eventually, they'll wrangle it in. If they don't, it's just going to continue to get worse.
Wouldn't you expect that as far as payment goes, the NIL collectives would probably be the ones to start these contracts, correct? Because if the university itself can't do it, you would assume that the person that's providing, or the group that's providing the money, would be able to.
My thought is that the contracts are more likely to come from the university because they'll be connected to revenue sharing as opposed to NIL. And revenue sharing is a form of NIL.
Sure.
It's not, because revenue sharing is not a employment agreement. It's an agreement to have non-exclusive NIL rights. Non-exclusive being an important word because then you can still go make money somewhere else with your NIL rights. That to me is the most likely place. And I could be wrong. Maybe it will come through the collectives. I think the collectives are going to take a little more of a backseat for the next few months as revenue sharing comes onto the scene. And if there's a spot right now where contracts could emerge, to me, it's more connected to revenue sharing, because the way that the payments are structured seems a little more contract like in the dynamic of them. You're going to have, I think some people believe, and maybe there'll be schools that structure it this way, and I can see it being structured this way with the sports that are not football. Like Nebraska volleyball is going to get, let's just say, $1 million in revenue share. Nebraska has $20.5 million. They're going to give $14 million ballpark to football, $3-4 million to men's basketball, $1 million to women's basketball, $1 million to volleyball. I could see in women's volleyball where they decide to divide it up among the whole team or the top 10 players. They all get $100,000, something like that. But in football, it's not going to be like that. In football, it's going to follow more of the NFL model, where your quarterback gets your quarterback gets $3 million of the 14. If it's a Raiola kind of 4 or 5 star player, your left tackle, he's going to get $1 million. Your lockdown corner, just the positions that tend to be drafted high that command money in the NFL. So because of that structure, I think that's more likely. They're more likely. Those things are going to be more likely connected to contracts.
I find it interesting that in your hierarchy of rev share there, you put basketball second.
It is.
Yeah. So that's correct in the revenue generated.
It might not be second as far as like what people care about most passionately at the University of Nebraska.
But you're looking at rev
generated. You could make an argument that that's women's volleyball.
Yeah.
Men's basketball is not putting 90,000 in Memorial Stadium if they played a game there.
No.
But you need basketball to be good.
Basketball, the environment in which it operates is just so much more money driven than women's volleyball. That if Nebraska decided to pay its women's volleyball program, which I'd be okay with that, but if they decided to pay them like second most on campus, okay, just give them the next 10 national championships, I guess. And I know money doesn't always make the difference, but most volleyball, if Nebraska volleyball gets $1 million, like maybe the second most highly paid volleyball program, that'll be the most, they'll set the market. Troy Dannon wants to set the market for volleyball. And if that's $1 million, fine. If it's 800,000, fine. If it's 1.2, fine. It'll set the market, and maybe there'll be 2 other programs nationally that like come within half of that.
So we've been advocates of that. We said, look, they're the ones that are winning. Like, I feel like they've earned it. Let them have their fair share, because they give Nebraska athletics a good name, whereas the men's sports have been very up and down. But go on.
Let's not forget bowling. Bowling has had a banner year so far. I know.
Hurry up, because I want to talk football.
Let's talk football. Let's talk actual football.
I hate talking about money because it really makes me like so cynical, and it kills my vibe.
Well, let's move on. Let's move on from
Fish don't kill my vibe.
Wow.
Okay, that was hurtful.
Well, I'm talking about everybody. I hate money. I hate it. So Dylan Raiola, his touchdown interception ratio, 13-11, nothing spectacular, but he was a true freshman. If we are hoping for, let's say, a 9-win season, what is the thing that you're looking for from him that he needs to be better at as opposed to last year?
That's a good place to start. Third down, being able to get first downs with his legs. I think that's a big piece. And, the offseason conversation, we're going to look back at the 9 months that was of the Nebraska offseason from like December 28th until August 28th, when Nebraska goes without playing a game. And like, what were the biggest buzzwords of the offseason? Body composition. There we go.
Yeah, there's 240.
248.
There's one that took 2 months worth of headlines. I'm glad we're not talking about that anymore. Like, we've all seen Dylan this spring, and he looks really good, and
239.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Jared, the other day you said 140.
But
too skinny.
I said it's too skinny, Mitch. He's too skinny. He's 140 now.
Yeah.
Not good.
Get a new wardrobe. That's important because it's going to allow him to not run for 60, 70 yards a game. But when it's 3rd and 2 and the coverage is there, he can get that. He can get that first down. And that maybe is the biggest area where I'm looking for growth in him from year 1 to year 2, is that pocket presence, knowing when to run, doing it at the right time, extending drives with his feet.
So one person in this room, and I won't name any names.
Jared. You'll just look at him.
Yeah, Jared.
Hi.
We've talked a lot about deep ball accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, we've had a lot of conversations about, there were a lot of deep ball pass interferences.
Mm-hmm. Purdue.
There were a lot in the Purdue.
Thank God for those, because we would have lost that game. Anyway, go on.
But is deep ball accuracy a concern of yours?
No.
No.
He's really good at it.
See, I'm on the same train.
Okay.
But so before you get into your thought, because you're better at this than I am, my thought was he was throwing those balls to those receivers to try and draw those interferences. Am I wrong, or am I slightly correct?
If you can get the flag, it's probably, and the defense is willing to commit pass interference, it's probably easier to get the DPI than it is to complete the pass. So go ahead and go down the field 15 yards at a time, but it's easier to score touchdowns if you can get 50 or 60 yards on a play. Okay. So I coach my son's 14-year-old baseball team. And if you listen to me at all on our podcast or
AirPods in while you're coaching.
You know me, I did do that Saturday. I was not at I skipped rules presser after the scrimmage of all things on Saturday because I had a game to coach in Gretna at noon, and I'm not missing that. Like, I mean,
did you win?
Yeah, we won 14-0.
No,
because I was there coaching first base. Damn it!
There you go.
No, so the presser was supposed to get over, or practice was supposed to get over at 11:30, and the presser was going to start right after. So I was like, "That's great, you know, we'll be warming up." And Keith informed me that they were running late, and it was probably going to be afternoon. So I had to get the AirPods out and sit in the dugout during the first inning and listen to Rule. But the reason I bring up coaching baseball is because sometimes our 14-year-olds are great in the batting cage, and then they go to the field and you're like, where is your swing that I saw all winter for 3 months? Every time I pitched to you, like to the same ball, it's the same bat. And I know as a player once myself many years ago, it's not as easy as just taking it out. Like, you're not pitching the same. Like, that guy throws different than you did behind the screen, worried for your life. So it's the same way when you watch Dylan Raiola in practice, or you watch him in like a camp when he was 16, he's throwing the 55-yard cross field go route and hitting the guy like crazy right in the hands in stride. I know he can make that throw as good as anybody. He can make that throw as good as players and quarterbacks in the NFL. And he could do it when he was 17. That's why he was a 5-star. So now you got to take it to the field. You got to take it to the game. We saw him do it a few times. He's got all the tools. And we've seen it. Like, he's already in a place that's so much beyond where most Nebraska quarterbacks historically have ever been, because most of them couldn't make that throw. He can make the throw, but can you do it with a 275-pound defensive end running at your head? Can you do it when it's 3rd and 8 and, you know, whatever, there's bowl eligibility on the line, or you got to beat Iowa? That's the hurdle he's got to come over. I know he's physically capable, so I have confidence in him to be able to. I'm not concerned about his ability to make the deep throws. It's just, you know, does sound totally like a coach, which, hey, baseball coach, execute.
Hey, total hot take here, right? No matter how much NIL money Dylan Raiola makes, it still doesn't change the fact that he was still a true freshman last year. You could pay him as much as you want, but he was still a true freshman. That's like the hard part of this NIL era, is trying to explain to fans and whatever, like, expectations. They feel like if guys are getting compensated, like, it should show on the field immediately. And it's like, okay, but once again, he was a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, he was 19.
No matter how much money he makes, it did not change the fact that he had never played a college football game before last year.
Yeah, if he's getting paid the most on the team, isn't he supposed to be the best player? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Not yet. So we're talking about Dylan, the most talked about player on the roster. But Mitch, and I know how much time we got.
5-ish minutes.
Okay. Who do you feel like we are not talking enough about and that you think will make a significant impact?
Offense, defense, whole team.
I'll let you pick, who's what?
Give us offense, defense, and then biggest impact. So if your biggest impact is on offense or defense, give us the second place in either one of those.
I think at this point of spring, we've kind of gotten to the point where we're talking about everybody.
Welcome to Nebraska.
Right. Like, I've had these conversations over the last couple of weeks, like, who's under the radar? Who are the 5 players that we're not talking about that we should? So, but just in general, okay, on offense, who are we not talking about that we should be talking about a lot? Ja'Cory Barney. Okay. He comes up in conversation, but it's always like, hey, Nebraska got Dan Key and Isaiah Hunter And like Carter Nelson's going to play wide receiver this year when he gets back from injury. And like, oh, look, Heinrich Harburg, that's a pretty new toy, like out there at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Hey, did you hear Emmett Johnson? Like he went in the portal and he came back like, hey guys, Ja'Cory Barney was really freaking good last year. And he was also a true freshman. So you expect that he's going to take a huge jump. Like at 170 pounds, 175, I don't think he was 175 when he played last year. That dude was getting hit like nobody's business because he's playing in the Big Ten and they're running him on reverses that weren't always well blocked. And he kept getting up and he didn't fumble the ball.
That's right.
Yeah. Like he's a good player, like just a football player. So I think the next step for him is to all of a sudden be a guy that scores 10 touchdowns. Not talking about him enough.
Okay. Anyone on defense that you think as well? A lot of defensive backs on that roster.
There's guys all over the defense. We've talked a lot about this guy lately because Nebraska decided to bring him into the media room and he has a super interesting story. But I think we've kind of like overlooked the impact that he might have if he's healthy and able to play a 12-game season. He's 24, maybe 25 years old. Javen Wright. He was really good at the end of 2023 or for most of 2023. And the fact that he even got on the field and did anything last year was remarkable in that he couldn't hit anyone. He couldn't practice, period, couldn't play the first half of the year. And then the second half of the year when he was cleared on weekends, which is still a strange thing, they would take him off of his blood thinners and after a couple of days, he then he could have contact, but he really didn't tackle anybody or hit anybody in practice. That's not any way to play the sport.
No.
So if he's good to go in like normal and can have a regular regimen of contact, I think and like he has this knowledge, like he's the game has slowed down for him because he's been around it for so long, and he already came in with the pedigree of his father's Toby Wright and, played professionally, played in Canada for a long time and was a great player at Nebraska. Javen's just he's just a real thoughtful, and it's probably because he's so old. But you listen to him and it's like, God, I can't believe he's on the same team with like that 18-year-old over there. But so, yeah, we're not really we're talking about him because of his story and the fact that he's a 7th-year senior. But we're not really talking about like the impact that he could have as a football player, because Nebraska seems pretty set at linebacker. Like, got a couple good freshmen. They're a year or so away. But the transfer Watson Trent and everybody's excited and rightfully so about Vincent Shavers coming back for his second year. Like
Deshaun McCullough.
Yeah, McCullough's the jack. He's on the more outside linebacker. Wright's in the middle of the defense. I think he could be a guy that contributes heavily in the turnover category. Like he's just going to step up and make smart plays and step in front of the ball. And like he's going to get an interception or be in the right place for a fumble recovery in a big game when they really need it.
Versus Maryland, the game that they had the long drive to finish the game and Maryland kicked the field goal. The most memorable play that I'll remember is Javen Wright forcing that fumble inside like the 5. And I'm like, there it is. There's our break. Damn. I'll always remember that. So, unfortunately.
I have one last question. From what you've seen so far with this locker room, is there a glue guy right now?
Define glue guy.
a glue guy is a guy that
first in, last out.
Well, maybe isn't
Jim Rat.
like
Coach's son.
Coach's son.
A guy that maybe isn't making the biggest impact on the field, but that is really holding that locker room together. I mean, maybe they are making a big impact on the field.
I wish that I could say that I had been in the locker room and seen what's going on in there,
Yeah.
but they don't allow that. So you just kind of have to base it off of what everybody's saying.
Sure.
And sometimes that's hard to know because like I said, they like to control the narrative.
Of course.
I don't know. I wouldn't pick a new player. I just wouldn't pick a new player. But there's a lot of talk about Rocco Spindler. Like he's another one of those storylines that just like flashed really hot in the offseason, like body composition. Rocco Spindler. It's like,
You're right.
Like in the in the big chart of like the words that show up
Yes.
the most. Like they need one of those. Yeah. Rocco. That'll be in big letters, like 30-point font or something like that. Body composition.
Big, beautiful guard.
Yeah.
Better than Notre Dame.
Yeah, right. James Williams now has a spot on that thing. So, but I would say him, but no, because he's new. I do think within the offensive line that he's a glue guy. Overall for the team, I mean, why not Dylan?
Yeah, it's probably Dylan.
I mean, seriously, like it was forced last year. He tried to do it last year. Like, remember how he came out of the tunnel first every game? Like the first game of his career, he ran out of the tunnel in front of everybody, and it's kind of like, oh, really? Like he's leading the team out of the tunnel in the first game of his career. Like, good for him. Good for him for wanting to step up like that. But this year when he does it, it's gonna be way more natural, like
organic.
It's
his team.
Yeah, when you see Isaiah Hunter come in and say the things that he said last week about Dylan, I found it to be very genuine, and maybe the first time that I've really thought that about a teammate talking about him. I mean, the wide receivers last year, or the running backs or whatever, who talked about Dylan, they were glowing in their praise. Like, hey, it's a 19-year-old and he's trying to lead the team and he's super talented. But like, yeah, he's his first year playing college football. Like, he can't be in charge. This is not like, he's not Cooper Flagg. I mean,
thank you.
I mean, you can't do that in football. It's way more of a team sport.
Yeah.
So this year's different though. This year, I mean, you listen to Emmett Johnson and Emmett talk about Dylan. Like, it's genuine. You listen to a new guy who hasn't been in the program as long as him, who comes in. I mean, Isaiah Hunter's been in college football longer than Dylan Raiola, but it's like a reverence that he has for Dylan, and that's cool.
What do you say? Like, best man in his wedding or something?
No,
like,
he said he would invite him to his wedding.
Oh, okay.
He said I would invite him to my wedding, and even if he was the only guy to come, I know he would be there.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that's important, because I feel like Nebraska football for years has missed having a glue guy. And it's not a title, like, you don't always have one. It's one that you have to earn. And I think if anyone has shown it, I know you mentioned Rocco, but again, Rocco being new, he hasn't earned it. Dylan knows these guys. He's worked with his staff. He's worked with these players. I think if it's going to be one of them, it's got to be Dylan.
Maybe Sam Hoiberg could come over and come in the locker room.
Kel Jacobson.
Okay. I mean, Dylan's an honorary member of the basketball program, right? So
pretty much.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything?
No, I don't think so. I think
we're
this
about
is
an hour.
we're about an hour. Let's get Mitch out of here. Mitch, this is an opportunity for you. Talk about where you're writing things, where people can find you now on YouTube, since you do a daily podcast. Tell everybody about all that stuff, where they can find you, where they can follow you. Plug yourself.
Yeah, it's really just pretty simple. I mean, the main place to find me is on The Athletic, and get the app. Go check us out. College football coverage, getting to be a fun time in the off season with the transfer portal coming back open. I'm sure there'll be tons of news.
Oh yeah.
So national college football, Big Ten, SEC football, Nebraska football. I'm your guy on that. So subscribe to The Athletic and follow me on Twitter at Mitch Sherman. And then the side gig is a lot of fun. I do the Locked On Nebraska podcast with Connor Happer, and we've got episodes up daily, Monday through Friday for the most part. You can find us on YouTube and on all of the podcast listening platforms.
And to some people's chagrin, Mitch Sherman covers college football all year round.
I do.
Even in the spring.
Oh, jeez.
I do. It's a sport that people care about. And I think, do you guys care about football in March and April, right?
We're here, aren't we? That's why we do this.
But I also
week.
cover college baseball, and that's going to be getting revved up here. I mean, it's already revved up.
Not Nebraska baseball, but yeah.
Yeah, Nebraska's going to lose to Creighton tomorrow. Don't you know?
Shut up. It might happen. Is this like, are we
We're live.
We are live.
We've got 107 people in here watching us right now.
Wow. Okay.
That's
cool. No, so it's actually tomorrow that Nebraska and Creighton are playing baseball. I'm not going to be there, but I'll check out the score. Disappointed in Nebraska baseball this year, but I'll be doing things nationally leading up to the CWS.
Love it.
Very cool.
A lot of people don't know Mitch Sherman. That baseball is that was like your OG thing, covering the Van Horn's teams and all that.
I mean, it was always football from a work perspective or from like a personal point of view. Yeah, that's the OG for sure.
Okay.
I did cover the Van Horn teams.
Must have been really nice, really fun.
It was the most fun I had. I mean, other than being in college and covering everything, the Van Horn years when I was at the World Herald then was the most fun ever in my professional career.
I think part of it just has the fact that the team you cover hasn't won in a while. So I think
that has something to do with it.
It has something to do with it. Yeah. We care a lot.
We're due, baby. Eventually.
Yeah. All right, guys. NBNRpodcast.com. Same handle on every social media site that you're on. NBNR Podcast. Spotify, YouTube. Yeah, are we at 1,000 yet?
I don't think so.
All right.
Get us to 1,000 YouTube followers. Mike's getting a face tat.
Heck
he committed to it.
Corn cob right below the eye. Corn cob teardrop, baby.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm one of your hosts, Jared Hall.
Connor Cavalack.
Mike Delaware.
Mitch Sherman.
As always. Beat Creighton tomorrow.
Please.
Ty Horn was sitting here a few months ago, and I said, beat Creighton, please. Hasn't worked. In GPR.
You mean